Howdy there folks, it's Hunter, and in today's video we're going to be talking about bows in Checkmate in Destiny 2. The reason that we're talking about that is because, as Bungie said themselves, they're planning on implementing Checkmate into more parts of the base game. Probably going to see it soon in places like Trials, Iron Banner, things like that. This also kind of heralds something else for me. We know that bows are going to get a rework at some point. They're going to get nerfed some way, some form, some fashion, even if it's maybe not warranted. As I talked about in a previous video, I don't think bows really need that much of a nerf. They really didn't get buffed here recently. The only thing that happened was that lightweights were made, actually usable instead of having ghost arrows constantly or missing shots that they shouldn't have missed because you're dead on. Things that no other primary in the game has to deal with. And on that subject, bows have charge time. No other primary in the game has that. So their high damage has always been offset by that fact, and offset by the fact that they're a lot more difficult to use than any other primary. Now, of course, I'm biased here as an avid bow main. It doesn't change the fact that they are probably the highest skill gap weapon as far as primaries are concerned. And some might say even the highest skill gap weapon, period. They recently got nerfed in Checkmate, so their damage is not as high as it was. I think that Bungie is going to implement these changes into the main game, and that's why I'm talking about Checkmate. I think that that's what they're going to do to bows across the board, and I think that they're using Checkmate as a way to experiment with lowering bows' damage so that they're less forgiving to use. Even though, as I said, they haven't really been buffed. Other things may have been nerfed around them, but we still have a ton of weapons that have significantly faster TTK, and they don't have charge time. You point at somebody, you pull the trigger, and then they die. A bow has a lot more going on there. In Checkmate currently, precisions are dealing 81 to 86 damage to the body and 121 to 129 damage to the head. The range that I'm giving you here is a perfect draw to an overdraw. We're not even going to talk about half draws because unfortunately no combination of half draws on any bow is going to allow you to still get that 2-tap unless it's on low resilience players, and you can't factor for that. There are way too many players that are running 10 resilience in Crucible, and honestly, even 7, 8, 9 resilience, that little area, that's enough to still survive trying to half draw with a bow. So at no point should you be trying to half draw. So as it stands currently, a precision bow, in order to kill all resiliences on Guardians, is going to require 2 headshots. And that happened because of the recent damage nerf they did in Checkmate. And that's kind of annoying because, precision bows are supposed to have a little bit more forgiveness and be able to get more body shots than lightweights. In base Crucible, a lightweight kills in 1 head, 1 body, and a precision can kill in 2 bodies. They took that away in Checkmate and turned it into lightweights needing 2 headshots and precisions needing 1 head, 1 body. So to make it so that precisions also need 2 headshots just like lightweights feels like a substantial nerf, and one that really wasn't warranted. We still don't have the same TTK as other weapons in there. I know it's Checkmate, and bows effectively retained the same TTK, while other weapons went up a little bit, but the ease of use cannot be overstated with a gun that you just pull out and shoot. A bow still has to deal with charge time, as I said. The damage on lightweights is 71 and 73 to the body, or on a headshot, 114 to 117. The only difference between a precision and a lightweight at this point is that lightweights will draw faster, and in general will shoot just a little bit faster. Lightweights, of course, give you the lightweight bonus, but the biggest difference, and simultaneously the smallest difference, is that precision bows are able to overdraw with 2 headshots and still get the kill. Lightweights have to have at least 1 perfectly drawn shot in order to kill in 2 headshots. Otherwise, a 10 resilience target may survive by 2 health, which is incredibly frustrating. I think that they should bump up their damage just a little bit to at least make it so that there's not a difference between a perfect draw and an overdraw. It's bad enough that we can no longer half draw. It's bad enough that we're required to get all headshots now. I think they can walk it back a little bit to give some forgiveness, because otherwise it sucks if you're not running Oathkeepers on a Hunter, and that is something to consider. Right now, Oathkeepers are no longer the training wheels, they're just a big help in general. I do also want to briefly bring up Wishender here. Wishender currently is dealing 90 to 92 damage to the body and 138 to 140 to the head. Wishender is currently the only bow that can still achieve the 1 head, 1 body ratio, aside from Tiku's. But Tiku's is a different animal, which we'll get to in just a moment. You can no longer half draw with Wishender, which is unfortunate because that's one of the best things about it, that little skill gap of being able to do that. And the other thing to note is that with those damage numbers, one of those draws has to be perfectly drawn. If that does not happen, if you overdraw both of them, they will survive by 1 or 2 health, especially on 10 resilience. Now, low resilience is not a problem. Not everybody's running 10 resilience, but a lot of people are running 10 resilience. Ever since the resilience rework, that's that's all you see. I mean, at least half the player base, it feels like, is running that. It is something to keep in mind. Those numbers do matter. That 1 or 2 damage does matter because it's the difference between you getting the kill and not getting the kill. They need to walk it back on the overdraws. They need to give bows just a little bit of bump in damage so that they at least have the forgiveness of not needing perfect draws, because that just seems like overkill to me. And then briefly, Tiku's. Tiku's deals 117 plus 138 whenever it lands its little combo. So you mark them with a body shot, and then it's going to deal well over 230 damage on that headshot if you land the headshot. So that means that Tiku's is the only bow that still functions the same as what other bows used to do. And that's scary. The fact that Tiku's is the only bow that still has the same functionality in Checkmate is not a good sign. Tiku's has always been one of the most frustrating bows to use in Crucible, especially just because, you know, the moment you mark somebody, they're immediately running like their life depends on it. People are not going to, you're going to get maybe 1 or 2 people that you blow up, and then after that, people are not going to want to challenge you at range. They're only going to rush you down at close quarters with an SMG or something else and just try to kill you faster than you can kill them. And that's why it's one of the most frustrating bows to use. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Tiku's. It's a fun bow to use, but it's not for the faint of heart, and it's not something that anybody can just pick up. I wouldn't really say it's a noob bow. It takes a lot more skill to use than just the regular bow. That's just not a good sign. So I think that Bungie has really overdone it with the nerfs on bows in this. I think that they need to walk it back just a little bit. I understand them wanting to have bows have a greater skill gap, even though bows already have the highest skill gap, you know. The nerfs feel completely overdone. As it stands right now, using something other than Tiku's in Checkmate just doesn't feel good. And if Checkmate's going to become the baseline, if that's going to become what our new Crucible experience is, you know, that fills me with a little bit of sadness, because I really don't want bows to be that bad. I'm still going to main one. If I got to use Tiku's, so be it. I have fun with it. You know, not everybody uses bows as much as I do. I would hate for the average player that doesn't use them as much to suffer just because they think about picking up what I consider to be one of the most fun weapons in Destiny 2. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm always happy to talk to y'all. Thank you for your time. I hope you found this interesting, and y'all have a wonderful day.